These are the 10 biggest trucks ever built, operating in a world most people never see. Down in the deepest open-pit excavations and across the widest construction sites on Earth, machines that shift hundreds of tons of rock, coal, and iron every single day turn highway vehicles into toys. Tires on these giants stand taller than a single-story house. Power plants inside them push out more horses than a fleet of standard passenger cars combined. A few of them cost more than a private jet, burning through fuel at a rate that would empty most bank accounts before the end of a single shift. Rather than just moving material, they make the modern world possible, because without them, the steel, copper, and coal that everything else depends on would stay buried in the ground. Here are 10 machines ranked by scale, starting at the bottom and building toward one truck that sits completely apart from everything else. Sweden's Volvo R100E proves that European engineering takes size seriously right from the start. Empty, it weighs 69.55 tons, then loads another 95 tons of rocks and dirt on top of that. A 30.5-liter engine drives it forward, giving it the muscle to climb steep grades that would bring most other vehicles to a halt. Designers placed fuel efficiency and operator safety at the center of every decision, which created a dependable workhorse across operations in multiple countries. A surprising detail is the price. Even a used model sells for around $1 million, putting this entry firmly in the same price range as a luxury penthouse. And that tells you everything about what kind of list this actually is. Moving up the scale, China's Sany SRT95C brings serious muscle to the coal and iron extraction sector. Tipping the scales at 65 tons, it handles large loads by hauling up to 209,000 pounds of material per trip, running on a 1,050 horsepower block that keeps operations moving through long shifts. Engineers built the unit using extra high-strength steel throughout the frame and body because sharp rocks and constant impact tear through weaker materials fast in a real-world environment. The tires are particularly striking. Each one sits on a 49-inch rim and stands over 100 inches tall, towering completely over most adults. Widespread deployment across Chinese sites happened partly because of that strength and partly because Sany built a dependable service network to keep fleets running rather than sitting idle, waiting on parts. Japan's contribution comes from Komatsu, and the HD785 earns its position through a mix of sheer mass and speed that seems almost impossible for something this large. Fully loaded, this beast tips the scales at 163 tons with a 1,200 horsepower engine pushing all of that up to 65 kilometers per hour, around 40 miles per hour. For a vehicle outweighing some naval vessels, that pace feels almost unsettling. Komatsu built a global reputation across decades of producing reliable machinery, and the HD785 carries that forward by functioning consistently in brutal conditions where breakdowns cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost production. Operators who need hardware that shows up every day, absorbs the punishment, and keeps moving without drama consistently point to this specific model. Taking a different engineering path from most others ranked here is India's BEML BH205E. Rather than driving the wheels directly with fuel, the design uses an electric drive system, where internal combustion generates electricity that then powers the wheel motors. Payload limits reach up to 190 tons of rock and dirt, making it a centerpiece of India's large-scale coal operations. That electric drivetrain cuts costs noticeably and reduces emissions compared to a fully mechanical system, giving operators a genuine financial reason to choose it beyond volume alone. Beyond that, the BH205E demonstrates that India's domestic sector can produce world-class industrial machinery, which matters to a country running some of the largest excavations in Asia. Scale and smarter energy use work together here rather than pulling against each other. Stepping into even higher capacities, the Bucyrus MT6300AC from the United States arrives with a payload capacity of over 360 tons. And the engineering behind it reflects how much thought went into handling that kind of load. Like the BEML, the MT6300AC runs on a diesel-electric powertrain, but the scale here grows far larger, with immense engines generating power for wheel motors that drive it across uneven terrain. Designers place safety at the core of every system, building a body tough enough to absorb the constant punishment of deep pit work without structural failure. For the crews inside the cab, that build quality and the reliable control systems matter as much as the numbers, because a failure at that scale is never a small problem. As one of China's largest haulers ever produced, earning its spot on this list through sheer power and physical size, the XCMG XDE 400 represents a true engineering leap. Moving 363 tons per load on a 3,750 horsepower block, it ranks as one of the most powerful extraction vehicles ever assembled in Asia. But the physical dimensions create their own set of challenges, because making a single turn requires a turning circle of 32 meters, wider than most city streets, which limits where it can be deployed and forces road designers to plan routes around its size. Operators utilize the XDE 400 in the world's deepest open pit sites, where the long-haul distances and extreme loads justify every bit of its complexity. Its development also marked a key moment for China's domestic industrial machinery sector, one that global manufacturers tracked closely from the moment it appeared. Germany's Liebherr has built industrial machinery for decades, and the T282C represents what that company knows how to do at the highest level. Capacity outpaces the XCMG, moving 800,000 pounds, but the total loaded weight climbs to 660 tons, putting it in a different weight class entirely. Available power configurations push up to 4,000 horsepower, and the top speed reaches around 56 kilometers per hour, even under those loads. What separates the T282C from many competitors is the precision engineering across every system, from the diesel-electric drive to the dynamic electric braking that manages deceleration for a colossus weighing more than 100 full-size passenger cars at once. Fleet managers running high-volume global operations trust the T282C because that precision holds up across years of hard use without falling apart under pressure. Caterpillar entered the ultra-large hauling field with the 798AC in 2018, and the numbers behind it are hard to process calmly. Hauling 372 tons, it runs a 16-cylinder engine generating roughly 3,500 horses, but the fuel tank is where the scale hits hardest. That reservoir holds 7,571 liters of diesel, about 2,000 gallons, and filling it at a public pump would run into thousands of dollars before the gauge stopped moving. Buying one will run you around $5 million, which sounds steep until you calculate what a unit capable of moving that volume of material in a single pass saves in operating hours across its working life. Caterpillar set out to build a new standard for what a giant hauler could carry, and the engineering packed into every component reflects how seriously they took that goal from day one. Stepping up to the next tier of scale, the Caterpillar 797F stands as one of the most recognized and trusted giant vehicles operating anywhere on Earth right now. It carries 400 tons, stands over 25 feet tall, and stretches more than 48 feet from bumper to bumper. Under the hood, a quad turbo block pushes 4,000 horsepower, and when running with an empty bed, it reaches 42 miles per hour. That last figure gives people pause, because 42 miles per hour on something the size of a small house does not compute easily. Industry operators across every major extraction region of the world trust the 797F for its consistent performance across years of grinding daily use. You will find it pulling loads out of deep pits on multiple continents, which speaks to how thoroughly Caterpillar built reliability into every system rather than just chasing paper specs. Sitting at the very top of the hierarchy is the BelAZ 75710, built in Belarus, and nothing else featured here even approaches it. Carrying 450 tons of rock per load, the total weight hits 810 tons when fully loaded. Two separate 16-cylinder engines work together under that steel frame, producing a combined 4,600 horsepower, and the body stretches 20.6 meters, 67 feet from end to end. Each of the 8 tires stands 4 meters tall, roughly 13 feet, and each tire alone weighs more than 5,000 kilograms. Fuel consumption runs at about 1,300 liters per 100 kilometers, while acquisition costs land between $6 and $8 million. When you see footage of a person standing next to one of those tires, the proportions stop making sense in the way that scale usually does. Instead of merely topping the rankings, the BelAZ 75710 occupies a category that nothing else has reached. Those are the 10 biggest trucks ever built, from Volvo's largest hauler, the R100E, to the BelAZ 75710's 450-ton payload record at the top. These machines keep the global industry turning. Every building, every road, and every piece of metal in your daily life pass through operations powered by haulers like these at some point along the way. Engineering breakthroughs behind them represent decades of pushing steel, rubber, and sheer power further than most people thought possible. Tell us which machine stands out to you the most in the comments below, and let us know if you would climb into the cab of that BelAZ. Subscribe so you catch every future look at the largest, most powerful machines on the planet.